The Silent Sentinel. The Galactic Concordat's emergency session began in chaos. Representatives of 17 spacefaring civilizations crowded the ancient chamber on Centauri Prime, their voices rising in a cacophony of translated arguments and accusations. At the center of the gathering, Ambassador Vextol of the Meridian Collective stood motionless, their crystalline form refracting the chamber's soft light as they absorbed the mounting tension. The Drachnid invasion of the Outer Rim had caught everyone by surprise. For millennia, the species had remained isolated in their nebula, showing no interest in expansion or conquest. Now their warships darkened the skies of dozen worlds, their energy weapons reducing cities to ash, while their ground forces harvested entire populations for their biological processors. The Concordat must act now. The Tellurian representatives' tentacles writhed in agitation, their bioluminescent patches flashing urgent patterns. 3 of our colony worlds have already fallen. Who among you will be next? Vextol watched as the familiar dance of galactic politics played out. The older races counseled patience and diplomatic solutions, while the younger species demanded immediate military action. None of them had the power to stop the Drachnid advance alone, and centuries of competing interests made unified action nearly impossible. The chamber's quantum sensors pulsed suddenly, drawing everyone's attention to the massive holographic display dominating the center of the room. A new signal had appeared at the edge of Concordat space, moving with deliberate purpose toward the front lines of the Drachnid invasion. "Unidentified vessel detected," announced the chamber's eye. "Configuration unknown. No match in Concordat records." The hologram shifted, revealing a ship unlike anything Vextol had seen in their 3 centuries of diplomatic service. It was elegant yet utilitarian, its dark hull seeming to drink in the light of nearby stars. No visible weapons or defense systems mirrored its smooth surfaces, but something about its presence sent a shiver through Vextol's crystalline matrix. Vessel classification: human, the AI continued, causing a ripple of surprise through the chamber. The humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, having achieved faster-than-light travel barely 50 years ago. Their handful of colonies and modest merchant fleet had earned them observer status in the Concordat, but they remained largely ignored by the major powers. Their technology was considered primitive, their military capabilities negligible. Yet here was a human vessel, larger than any they had previously fielded, moving with confidence toward a conflict that had the entire galaxy trembling. "We are receiving a transmission," the AI announced. The hologram shifted again, revealing a human female in a simple dark uniform devoid of ornamentation. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the HSS Vigilant," she said, her words automatically translated for all present. "We have monitored the situation in the Outer Rim and have determined that the Drachnid expansion represents an unacceptable threat to galactic stability. We are moving to intercept." The Tellurian representative's tentacles went still. "You? Intercept the Drachnid fleet. Their smallest destroyer could vaporize your entire naval force." "Perhaps," Captain Chen replied, her expression unchanged. "But the Vigilant is not like our other ships. We recommend all Concordat vessels maintain a minimum safe distance of 1 light minute from our planned engagement zone." Before anyone could respond, she ended the transmission. The chamber erupted in fresh arguments, but Vextol remained focused on the holographic representation of the Vigilant. Something about its design tickled their analytical subroutines. The hull's unusual composition, the way it interacted with background radiation. "They've achieved it," Vextol whispered, their crystalline form resonating with sudden understanding. Several nearby representatives turned to them questioningly. "Achieved what?" demanded the Tellurian. "Something we all dismissed as impossible," Vextol replied. "Something that changes everything." The hologram updated as the Vigilant reached the edge of the conflict zone. 3 Drachnid capital ships moved to intercept, their massive forms dwarfing the human vessel. Energy readings indicated they were charging their main weapons. The Vigilant did not alter course. It did not raise shields or charge weapon systems. It simply continued forward, silent and purposeful, like the bow wave of an approaching tsunami. The Drachnid ships opened fire, their energy beams capable of cutting through a small moon. The assembled representatives held their breath, expecting to witness the human vessel's destruction. Instead, they watched as reality itself seemed to bend around the Vigilant. The energy beams curved away harmlessly, their paths distorted by what appeared to be localized wrinkles in space-time. The human ship continued its advance, unperturbed. "Impossible," someone whispered. The Vigilant finally stopped, positioning itself between the Drachnid fleet and their next target world. Captain Chen's image appeared again in the chamber. "This is your only warning," she stated calmly. "Withdraw your forces from Concordat space immediately, or we will be forced to demonstrate the full capabilities of our quantum manipulation technology." The Drachnid response came in the form of a full broadside from all three capital ships. The chamber's sensors registered enough firepower to glass a continent. Once again, space twisted around the Vigilant, but this time the diverted energy did not dissipate harmlessly. Instead, it curved back toward its source, amplified and focused by whatever impossible technology the humans had developed. The results were devastating. Where three Drachnid capital ships had been, there was now only expanding clouds of plasma and debris. The Vigilant remained untouched, its dark hull still drinking in the starlight. Throughout Concordat space, sensors registered multiple Drachnid fleets simultaneously breaking off their attacks and beginning emergency faster than light jumps. Within hours, the invasion that had threatened to reshape the galaxy simply ended. In the chamber on Centaur Prime, silence reigned. The assembled representatives stared at the hologram, trying to process what they had witnessed. Humanity, the primitive newcomers they had dismissed, had just casually demonstrated technology that shouldn't be possible for another 1,000 years. Vextel's crystalline form hummed with something between awe and fear. They had all assumed humans were simply another young species stumbling their way into the galactic community. Now they understood the truth. Humanity had not been developing slowly. They had been developing differently, following paths of scientific inquiry that the older races had abandoned as dead ends. And they had done it all in secret, waiting until the galaxy truly needed their help before revealing their true capabilities. As the implications sank in, Vextel realized that the galaxy would never be the same. The age of dismissing humanity was over. The question now was, what other impossible things had they achieved while no one was paying attention? Echoes of Earth. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the observation deck of the Vigilant, watching distant stars blur past the quantum-reinforced viewports. 20 years of her life had led to this moment, though the beginning of that journey still felt like yesterday. She remembered the day humanity learned they weren't alone. Not through peaceful contact or careful diplomatic overtures, but through the aftermath of the Drachnid's first harvest. The colony on Europa had gone silent without warning. When the rescue ships arrived, they found only empty habitats and facilities stripped of biological material. The few surviving camera feeds showed creatures that moved like living shadow, their forms seeming to shift between dimensions. The images had changed everything. Earth's governments, for the first time in history, united under a single purpose, not in fear, but in determination. If humanity was to survive in a galaxy that held such threats, they would need to think differently. Maya had been a theoretical physicist then, working on what most considered fringe science. Her theories about quantum manipulation at a macro scale had been dismissed by mainstream academia. But when the Europa footage showed the Drachnid shifting between dimensional states, her papers suddenly became required reading at every major research institution. "Doctor," Captain Chen's voice pulled Maya from her memories. "The Concordat delegation has arrived. They're rather insistent about understanding how our quantum manipulation drive works." Maya smiled. "Are they? And here I thought they'd dismissed the whole field as impossible decades ago." She turned from the viewport, her dark eyes twinkling with amusement. "Shall we show them what humanity achieved while they weren't looking?" The Vigilance conference room was a study in understated elegance. No ornate decorations or displays of power, just clean lines and comfortable seating arranged around a holographic projector. The alien delegation filed in, their diverse forms a testament to the galaxy's variety. Ambassador Vextal led them, their crystalline form catching the room's soft light. Dr. Patel, Vextal began, their translated voice carrying a hint of static. Your ship's capabilities have concerned many within the Concordat. Such technology should not be possible at humanity's current development stage, shouldn't it? Maya gestured to the holographic projector, which sprang to life with a complex mathematical model. Tell me, Ambassador, why did your peoples abandon research into quantum manipulation? The energy requirements were prohibitive, another delegate answered, their insectoid mandibles clicking. The power needed to affect quantum states at a macro level would exceed the output of a small star. That's true, if you approach it directly. Maya manipulated the hologram, showing a different set of equations. But we found another way. Instead of trying to brute force quantum effects, we learned to suggest them, to create cascading changes that propagate through space-time with minimal energy input. The delegates studied the equations, their various sensory organs registering different levels of surprise and disbelief. It's elegant, isn't it? Maya continued. When the Drachnid attacked Europa, they showed us it was possible. Their dimensional shifting technology gave us the final piece of the puzzle. We just had to approach it from a different angle. But the risks. Vextal's crystalline form vibrated with concern. One miscalculation could tear a hole in reality itself, which is why we spent 15 years testing and refining the technology in secret, Captain Chen interjected. The Vigilant isn't just our first quantum manipulation ship. It's the culmination of thousands of smaller successes and carefully managed failures. Maya nodded. We knew we couldn't match the established powers of the galaxy in conventional technology. We didn't try to climb the same ladder. We built our own. The hologram shifted again, showing the Vigilant's quantum manipulation core. It was deceptively simple, a sphere of crystalline matrices arranged in patterns that seemed to repeat infinitely inward. The core doesn't generate quantum effects, Maya explained. It encourages them, guides them, like a shepherd herding quantum possibilities toward desired outcomes. The energy requirements are minimal because we're working with the natural tendencies of space-time rather than against them. One of the delegates, a being of pure energy contained within a technological shell, moved closer to the hologram. This would revolutionize every field of science. The implications for medicine alone are staggering, Maya agreed, which is why we're prepared to share this technology with the Concordat. The room went silent. Even Vextal's constant crystalline humming ceased. Share it, the energy being asked. Freely. With proper safeguards and oversight, yes. Captain Chen's voice was firm. Humanity didn't develop this technology just to become another galactic superpower. We developed it because we saw a need, a way to protect not just ourselves, but others. Maya watched the delegates process this. She could almost see their preconceptions about humanity crumbling. The Drachnid aren't the only threat out there, she said softly. We've detected quantum disturbances at the galaxy's edge that make their technology look primitive. Something is coming, something that will require all of us working together to face. She brought up one final hologram, a visualization of the quantum fluctuations she detected. The patterns were unmistakably artificial, but operated on a scale that made even the Vigilant seem tiny in comparison. This is why we revealed ourselves now, Captain Chen explained. Not to show off our achievements, but because the galaxy needs to be ready. We chose to develop this technology in secret not out of distrust, but because we knew the first demonstration needed to be perfect. We needed to show that quantum manipulation could be both powerful and controlled. And now, Vextal asked. Now we hope to prove something even more important, Maya replied. That humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our determination. It's our desire to share our knowledge, to work together, to face the unknown not as competitors but as allies. The delegates looked at each other, centuries of political maneuvering and species rivalry warring with the obvious truth before them. Finally, Vextal spoke for them all. "Tell us what you need. United we stand." The Martian Quantum Research Facility sprawled across Valles Marineris like a silver web, its crystalline spires reaching toward the rust-colored sky. In the main amphitheater, representatives from 30 different species watched as Dr. Maya Patil guided a quantum probability wave through a complex series of manipulations, the holographic display translating the subtle interactions into visible light. "The key is understanding that quantum states aren't just possibilities to be forced," she explained, her voice translated simultaneously into dozens of languages. "They're more like currents in an ocean. We can't control them directly, but we can learn to navigate them, to use their natural flow to achieve our goals." In the front row, a meridian crystalline entity vibrated with excitement, its fractal patterns shifting rapidly. "Like our solar sailing ships," it chimed. "We don't force the solar winds. We work with them." "Exactly," Maya beamed. "Each species brings its own perspective, its own analogies that help us understand the underlying principles in new ways. The Arcturians' experience with plasma dynamics has already helped us improve efficiency by 30%. At the back of the amphitheater, Captain Chen watched with quiet satisfaction. In the 3 months since humanity had revealed the quantum manipulation technology, progress had exceeded even their most optimistic predictions. Species that had spent centuries competing were now working together, sharing insights and building on each other's discoveries. Her communicator chimed softly. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice was tense. "We're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations in the Carina sector. Pattern matches the anomalies Dr. Patil identified." Chen's expression remained neutral, but her pulse quickened. "Inform the Concordat. Have the Vigilant ready for departure in 30 minutes. She looked back at the amphitheater, where Maya was now demonstrating a particularly elegant probability cascade. "And get Dr. Patel. She needs to see this." The Vigilant's quantum core hummed with power as they dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Carina sector. The ship's sensors, enhanced by recent Arcturian innovations, painted a disturbing picture of local spacetime. "It's like watching waves in a pond," Maya murmured, studying the quantum sensor displays. "But these aren't natural ripples. Something's testing the waters." "Probing our defenses?" Chen asked. "Not exactly. More like mapping the quantum topology of our galaxy, building a reference model for navigation." Maya's fingers danced over the controls, adjusting sensor parameters. "There, do you see it?" The main display shifted, revealing patterns of quantum disturbance that stretched across thousands of light years. They were subtle, almost invisible, unless you knew exactly what to look for. But once seen, they were unmistakable. "They're building a road," Chen realized. "A quantum highway straight into the heart of our galaxy. Not just one road." Maya's voice was grim. "Hundreds of them, layered through different quantum states. Whatever's coming isn't planning a simple invasion. They're preparing for a full migration." The implications were staggering. An entire civilization, advanced enough to manipulate quantum states on a galactic scale, was preparing to move into their space. The question was, were they running from something or expanding their territory? "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. The Concordat Council has made a decision." The holographic display shifted, showing the familiar chamber on Centauri Prime. Ambassador Vextal stood at the center, their crystalline form glowing with an inner light that reflected their excitement. "Captain Chen, Dr. Patel," they began. "The Concordat has unanimously approved the formation of the Quantum Defense Initiative. All member species have agreed to pool their resources and knowledge toward preparing for whatever approaches our galaxy." Chen nodded. It was unprecedented. The first truly unified action by the Concordat in its long history, and the leadership structure. That was surprisingly uncontentious. Vextal's form sparkled with what might have been amusement. Given humanity's experience with quantum manipulation technology and your demonstrated willingness to share knowledge rather than hoard it, the Council has voted to place Earth at the head of the initiative. Maya and Chen exchanged glances. It was an enormous responsibility, and an equally enormous show of trust from species that had, until recently, viewed humanity as primitive newcomers. "We accept," Chen said firmly. "But we'll need full cooperation from every member species. What we're facing, it's beyond anything any of us have encountered before." "You already have it," Vextal assured them. "The Arcturians are converting their largest shipyards to produce quantum-capable vessels. The Meridian Collective is adapting their crystalline technology to enhance our sensor networks. Even the Drachnid, after witnessing the vigilance capabilities, have requested to join the initiative." Maya turned back to the quantum sensor display, watching the subtle ripples that heralded such massive changes to come. "How long do we have?" "Based on the propagation patterns of these quantum highways," Chen answered, "I'd estimate 6 months before they reach our galaxy. 6 months to prepare for contact with a civilization that can reshape quantum reality on a galactic scale." Maya's voice held a mix of fear and excitement. 6 months to either make first contact or prepare for war. "We'll be ready," Chen said with quiet confidence. "Humanity spent decades preparing for the unknown, developing technologies that others thought impossible. Now we have the combined knowledge and resources of 30 species working together. Whatever's coming, they'll find more than they expected." The Vigilance quantum core pulsed, as if in agreement. On the main display, another set of quantum ripples appeared, stronger than before. The unknown civilization was accelerating their preparations. But they weren't the only ones preparing anymore. Across the galaxy, shipyards were retooling, scientists were collaborating, and a new unified force was taking shape. Humanity had shown the way, but what came next would be a true testament to what different species could achieve together. The road was being built. The question now was, who would they find at the end of it? The eve of contact. The quantum defense fleet assembled at the edge of the Carina sector was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 500 ships of various designs and origins, each modified with humanity's quantum manipulation technology and enhanced by the unique innovations of their respective species. At the fleet's center, the Vigilant held position, its dark hull now adorned with crystalline sensor arrays, a gift from the Meridian Collective. On the bridge, Captain Chen watched the tactical display with quiet pride. 6 months of unprecedented cooperation had produced remarkable results. The Arcturians' plasma containment technology had doubled the efficiency of quantum cores across the fleet. Drachnid dimensional shifting techniques, once used for harvesting colonies, now powered advanced stealth systems. Even the enigmatic energy beings of the Helios cluster had contributed, teaching them to read quantum fluctuations with previously impossible precision. "Status report," she called out, her voice carrying across the bridge. "Quantum highway construction continues to accelerate," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "The unknown civilization has completed 37 major routes into our galaxy. Energy signatures suggest they'll be ready for transit within 48 hours. And our preparations. The quantum defense grid is online and stable," Dr. Maya Patil answered from her station. She had insisted on being aboard the Vigilant for first contact, despite the risks. "All member species territories are now connected through quantum-entangled communication relays. If these visitors have hostile intentions, we'll be able to coordinate our response instantly." Chen nodded, but her attention was drawn to a subtle anomaly in the sensor readings. "Maya, are you seeing this? That fluctuation pattern at coordinates 227 Mark 184. "I see it." Maya's fingers flew over her console, adjusting sensor parameters. "It's different from the highway construction patterns. More focused, almost like." The bridge lighting suddenly shifted to deep blue as proximity alerts sounded throughout the ship. A section of space directly ahead of the fleet began to ripple, reality itself seeming to fold and unfold like origami made of starlight. "All ships, Maintain position, Chen ordered, her voice calm but firm. This could be our first direct contact. Weapons on standby, but do not target unless explicitly ordered. The quantum distortion grew, forming a perfect sphere about half a kilometer in diameter. Within it, space itself seemed to twist into impossible geometries, layers of reality peeling back to reveal. By all that's sacred, Maya whispered. A ship emerged from the distortion. Though ship seemed an inadequate word for what they were seeing, it was organic and geometric at the same time, its hull composed of what appeared to be crystalline structures that grew and shifted like living tissue. It was smaller than they expected, roughly the size of the Vigilant itself. "We're receiving a transmission," Rodriguez announced. It's everywhere. Quantum entangled at the subatomic level, broadcasting simultaneously to every ship in the fleet. "Put it through," Chen ordered. The holographic display came to life, showing an environment that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could properly process. The being at its center, however, was surprisingly familiar, humanoid in basic shape, though its body appeared to be composed of shifting patterns of light and shadow. "Greetings, children of the younger universe," it said, its words somehow translating themselves directly in everyone's minds. "We are the quantum architects, and we come seeking refuge." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Of all the scenarios they had prepared for, this was not one they had expected. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Vigilant," Chen responded. "On behalf of the Concordat and the Quantum Defense Initiative, I welcome you. Though I must ask, refuge from what?" The being's form shifted, its patterns darkening. "From the heat death of our universe. We are the last survivors of a reality that has grown too thin, too cold for even beings of our advancement to survive. We have spent millennia searching for a younger, warmer universe to call home." Maya stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overwhelming protocol. "The quantum highways, they're not just for navigation, are they? They're environmental adaptation matrices." The being's patterns brightened in what might have been approval. "Correct. We cannot simply exist in your universe without preparation. The quantum constants are too different. The highways allow us to gradually adjust, to avoid causing damage to either ourselves or your reality." "How many of you are there?" Chen asked. 17,842," the being replied. "All that remains of a civilization that once spanned a galaxy far larger than your own. We have seen your recent advancement in quantum manipulation technology. It is surprisingly elegant for such a young species. Humanity didn't achieve this alone," Chen said firmly. "Everything you see here is the result of cooperation between many species, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities." The being's form shifted again, patterns swirling in complex sequences. "Yes, we have observed this. It is one of the reasons we chose your galaxy. Our own civilization's isolation contributed to our inability to save our universe. We hope to find a reality where different species could work together, where diversity of thought and approach was valued." Maya's console suddenly lit up with new readings. "Captain, I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations along all 37 highways. Something's coming through." The being nodded. "Our arcships. Each carries a portion of our population in quantum stasis, along with the collected knowledge and cultural heritage of our civilization. We do not ask for charity. We offer an exchange. Our advanced understanding of quantum mechanics and multidimensional engineering for a new home among the stars of your galaxy." Chen studied the being carefully. This was the moment everything had been preparing for. The first real test of the galaxy's new unity. Her decision here would affect not just humanity, but every species in the Concordat. "Before we proceed," she said, "I'll need to consult with the Quantum Defense Initiative Council. But speaking personally, I believe there's room enough in our galaxy for those who come seeking peaceful cooperation." The being's patterns formed what was unmistakably a smile. "We suspected you would say something like that. It is why we waited until your species had developed quantum manipulation technology before making contact. You understand on a fundamental level that reality is not fixed, that with proper cooperation and understanding, even the seemingly impossible can be achieved. As if to emphasize the point, more ships began emerging from quantum space. The arc ships, each one a marvel of engineering that blended organic and geometric forms in ways that challenged comprehension. But rather than feeling threatened, Chen felt something else. Hope. This wasn't an invasion or a conquest. It was an opportunity. A chance for the galaxy to grow not just in population, but in knowledge and understanding. The quantum highways weren't just paths through space. They were bridges between civilizations, between ways of thinking and being. "Welcome to our galaxy," she said, and meant it. A new dawn. 1 year after first contact, the Sol system had become unrecognizable. The Quantum Engineering Academy that now orbited Jupiter's moon Europa was a testament to the unprecedented collaboration between the galaxy's species. Its crystalline spires phased between dimensions, housing research facilities that existed simultaneously in multiple quantum states. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the Academy's central observation dome, watching as students from dozens of species, including several quantum architects, worked together on projects that would have been dismissed as impossible just 18 months ago. The sight still filled her with wonder. "Remarkable, isn't it?" The voice came from Nexus, the quantum architect who had first contacted their fleet. Its form shifted through patterns of light and shadow as it moved to stand beside her. "In our original universe, it took us millennia to achieve what your combined civilizations accomplished in a single year." "The advantage of diverse perspectives," Maya replied, smiling. "Every species approaches problems differently. When we work together, we find solutions that none of us would have discovered alone." The Academy's quantum core pulsed gently, a reminder of how far they'd come. The integration of architect technology with the Concordat's quantum manipulation systems had revolutionized everything from transportation to medicine. But more importantly, it had changed how the galaxy's species viewed each other. "Captain Chen's transmission is about to begin," Nexus noted. "Shall we?" Maya nodded, and they made their way to the Academy's Grand Hall. Representatives from every Concordat species, along with a contingent of quantum architects, had gathered to watch the historic broadcast. The Vigilant, now serving as the flagship of the combined fleet, was about to attempt something unprecedented. The holographic display activated, showing Captain Chen on the Vigilance bridge. The ship looked different now, its hull integrated with crystalline quantum sensors and biological computing nodes, a perfect fusion of multiple species technologies. "Greetings to all citizens of the Concordat," Chen began. "Today, we attempt what many once thought impossible, controlled travel between quantum realities. Thanks to the combined knowledge of our civilizations, we believe we can now safely navigate the quantum highways between universes, opening new frontiers for exploration and understanding." The display split, showing the Vigilant position near one of the original quantum highways. But this was different from the paths the architects had created. This was something new, a carefully constructed bridge between realities, designed with the combined expertise of every spacefaring race. "Our mission," Chen continued, "is to establish contact with other universes that may face the same fate as the architect's original home. With their help, we can offer sanctuary to those in need, while learning from civilizations that may have developed along entirely different paths." Maya felt a surge of pride. This was what humanity had helped create. Not an empire or a hierarchy, but a community of species working together to help others. The Vigilant's quantum core began to power up, its energy signature rippling through multiple dimensions. The new highway activated, forming a corridor of shifting reality that seemed to stretch into infinity. "All systems nominal," Chen reported. "Beginning quantum transit in 3, 2, 1. The ship slipped into the quantum corridor with impossible grace, its enhanced systems allowing it to navigate between realities as easily as it once moved between stars. The assembled crowd watched in awe as sensor data streamed in, showing glimpses of other universes, other possibilities. Transit successful. Chen's voice came through clearly, despite traveling across dimensional boundaries. We're receiving signals. Multiple civilizations detected. Some appear to be facing similar challenges to what the architects encountered. Initiating first contact protocols. Nexus's form brightened with emotion. When we fled our dying universe, we hoped to find sanctuary. Instead, we found partners, species willing not just to accept us, but to work with us in helping others face the same challenge. Maya thought about everything that had led to this moment. The Drachnid invasion that had pushed humanity to develop quantum manipulation technology. The crisis that had united the Concordat. The arrival of the architects that had shown them what was possible when different species worked together. The galaxy's changing, she said. We're not just separate species sharing space anymore. We're becoming something new. A true community of civilizations. Around them, the Academy hummed with activity. Young scientists from every corner of the galaxy worked side by side, each bringing their unique perspectives to solving the universe's greatest challenges. The Drachnid, once feared as harvesters, now used their dimensional shifting technology to help stabilize quantum corridors. The crystalline beings of the Meridian Collective had integrated their living architecture with architect designs, creating structures that could adapt to the needs of any species. The Vigilant continued its journey through the quantum highway, sending back data that would keep scientists busy for decades. But more importantly, it carried a message to other universes. They were not alone. Help was available, not from a single advanced civilization, but from a diverse community of species who had learned that their differences were their greatest strength. We should begin preparing, Nexus said. If Captain Chen is successful, we may soon have new species seeking sanctuary. Maya smiled. We'll be ready. After all, that's what humanity does best. We adapt, we learn, and we help others do the same. As if in response, the Academy's quantum core pulsed again, its energy patterns forming complex harmonies with the biological and crystalline systems integrated throughout the structure. It was a symphony of technologies, a testament to what could be achieved when different species brought their knowledge and perspectives together. The future that stretched before them was vast and uncertain, filled with challenges they couldn't yet imagine, but they would face it together, not as separate species, but as a unified galaxy that had learned to turn diversity into strength. In the end, that was humanity's greatest contribution. Not the quantum manipulation technology, but the demonstration that the impossible became possible when you were willing to learn from and work with those who were different from you. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun. The signal. The central chamber of the observational nexus aboard the Galactic Collective's headquarters ship, Eternal Vigilance, had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 300 species filled the vast circular space, their diverse forms creating an undulating sea of color, texture, and movement. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others stood on specialized platforms, while a few existed as pure energy contained within specialized matrices. Grand Observer Talik, a Varaxian whose crystalline exoskeleton shimmered with mural activity, hovered at the center of the chamber. His 8 sensor stalks extended outward, scanning the assembled delegates. The signal has been verified, Talik announced, his voice translated into 300 distinct languages simultaneously. After 743 cycles of observation, the primitive world designated Sol 3 has broken its silence. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Sol 3, Earth, had been under observation since the collective first detected radio waves emanating from the planet nearly a millennium ago. Standard protocol dictated non-interference until a species achieved reliable interstellar travel on their own. The humans had apparently reached space-age technology, but had inexplicably never ventured beyond their own lunar satellite in any significant way. Show us the signal, demanded Representative Ziv of the methane-breathing Caldosians, her vapor form swirling impatiently. Talik gestured with his primary manipulators, and the chamber darkened. Above them, A three-dimensional representation of the signal appeared. It wasn't the crude radio or light-based communication most emerging species employed. This was something far more sophisticated. A quantum entanglement pattern that somehow maintained stability across interstellar distances. Impossible, whispered scientist delegate Norin, his photosynthetic membranes fluttering in agitation. This technology should be beyond a species at their development stage. The signal appeared simultaneously at every collective observation post throughout the galaxy, Talek continued. Not transmitted, received. As if it existed at all points in space at the same moment. The message itself was simple, displayed in perfect collective standard. We are aware. We are ready. We invite conversation. How long have we been compromised? Asked Military Commander Vex, her chitinous armor clicking as she stepped forward. If they can send signals like this, they can certainly detect our observation stations. Talek's crystalline form dimmed slightly, a sign of distress among his kind. Unknown. Our stealth systems should be undetectable to a civilization at their technological level. Clearly, our assessments have been flawed, noted Elder Moru, the ancient gas cloud entity who had served on the Collective Council for over 2,000 years. The question is, have they been hiding their advancement, or did they suddenly make a breakthrough? Admiral Vorex, the Collective's most decorated fleet commander, moved forward. Unlike most of her reptilian species, her scales were midnight blue rather than the typical green, a genetic divergence that had marked her as special from birth. Her 4 eyes, 2 for standard light spectrum, 2 for quantum spatial perception, narrowed as she studied the signal pattern. This isn't a recent development, she declared confidently. The sophistication in this signal suggests centuries of refinement. They'd been watching us watch them. The chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. The idea that a supposedly primitive species had not only detected the Collective's sophisticated observation network, but had allowed the surveillance to continue while they developed in secret was unprecedented. Talek raised all 8 of his appendages, calling for silence. The Council has made its decision. We will send a diplomatic vessel to Sol 3. Admiral Vorex will command the mission. Vorex straightened her 7-foot frame. I accept the assignment. Choose your crew carefully, Elder Moru cautioned, his gaseous form pulsing with concern. If they have been hiding their true capabilities, this could be more dangerous than any first contact we've attempted. 3 standard cycles later, the Collective vessel Diplomatic Overture dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The sleek ship, designed to appear non-threatening while housing significant defensive capabilities, approached cautiously. Admiral Vorex stood on the command deck, surveying the sensor readings with her quantum spatial eyes. Status report, she ordered. No signs of advanced technology detected, reported Science Officer Krell, her tentacles dancing across the sensor panel. Orbital satellites are primitive, limited weapon systems, no evidence of faster-than-light technology. And yet they sent us a quantum-entangled invitation, Vorex mused. Curious. The Diplomatic Overture passed Mars, noting the small research outposts humans had established there. Nothing impressive, just basic habitat modules and rudimentary terraforming equipment. They appear to be exactly what our centuries of observation suggested, noted cultural specialist Timmy, her feathered crest rising in puzzlement. A species on the cusp of true space travel, but not quite there. Appearances can be deceiving, Vorex replied, her instincts honed by centuries of service, telling her something wasn't right. Continue approach to Earth orbit. As they reached Earth's orbital path, Communications Officer Zane suddenly straightened. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission. Standard radio waves, nothing unusual about the method of delivery. On screen, Vorex ordered. A human face appeared, female by their species dimorphism, with dark skin and close-cropped silver hair. She wore what appeared to be a simple uniform with no insignia or identifying markers. Greetings, Admiral Vorex and representatives of the Galactic Collective, the human said in perfect collective standard. I am Guardian, Earth's designated representative for this initial contact. "Welcome to our solar system." Vorax felt her scales tighten against her body, a reflexive response to danger among her kind. "You know who we are," she stated rather than asked. The human smiled. "We've been studying your collective for quite some time. Your observation posts are quite thorough, but not as undetectable as you believed." "Then why allow us to watch you?" asked cultural specialist Timmy. "It served our purposes," Guardian replied simply. "We request permission to send coordinates for a landing zone where we can meet in person." Vorax exchanged glances with her senior staff. This wasn't following any of the expected protocols for first contact with a developing world. "We typically conduct initial meetings in orbit," Vorax explained. Guardian's expression remained pleasant but firm. "We understand your protocols, Admiral. However, there are aspects of our civilization that cannot be properly conveyed except in person, on our world. I assure you, your safety is guaranteed." After a brief conference with her team, Vorax made her decision. "Send the coordinates. We will dispatch a diplomatic shuttle." The coordinates led to a location in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. As the shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, the crew could see nothing but endless blue water below. "There's nothing there," muttered Security Chief Drav, his clawed hand resting near his sidearm. Just as the words left his mouth, the ocean surface below them began to part, revealing a massive circular platform rising from the depths. The platform was at least a kilometer in diameter, its surface gleaming with what appeared to be standard landing pads and structures. "Still think they're primitive?" Vorax asked dryly. The shuttle landed smoothly on the designated pad. As the delegation prepared to disembark, they adjusted their environmental suits. Standard procedure for visiting a new world, though preliminary scans showed Earth's atmosphere was non-toxic to most of their species. The outer door opened, and they stepped onto the platform. Guardian stood waiting, flanked by what appeared to be other humans. But as Vorax engaged her quantum spatial vision, she realized with a shock that these weren't biological entities at all. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral," Guardian said, extending a hand in what their cultural briefing had indicated was a greeting gesture. "You're about to discover why humanity has chosen to remain silent all these years." Guardian led them toward a structure at the center of the platform. "For the record, Admiral, we've known about the collective since your first observation satellite entered our system 743 years ago. We detected it immediately, but decided to let it remain." "Why?" asked Vorax, struggling to reconcile this revelation with centuries of intelligence suggesting humans were barely aware of the greater galaxy. "Because we were busy," Guardian said simply as they reached a massive door, "and we needed time without interference." The door slid open, revealing not a conventional room, but what appeared to be an impossibly vast space, far larger than the structure should have been able to contain. Inside, suspended in the center, was a swirling mass of light and energy that pulsed with intricate patterns. "What you're seeing," Guardian explained, "is a quantum consciousness hub, one of thousands we've built beneath Earth's oceans and deep underground. While your observers watched our cities and our seemingly primitive space efforts, this is what we were actually building." Vorax stared in astonishment. "What exactly are we looking at?" Guardian smiled, a genuine expression this time, tinged with pride. "You're looking at humanity, Admiral, not as we appear, but as we truly are. 200 years ago, we transcended our biological limitations. What you thought was human civilization on the surface, merely a sanctuary for those who chose to remain in physical form, and a convenient facade to present to watchers like yourselves." The implication stunned the entire delegation into silence. They hadn't been observing a developing civilization at all. They had been watching a carefully constructed masquerade, one designed specifically to keep the galactic collective from realizing what humanity had truly become. "But why reveal yourselves now?" Vorax finally asked. Guardian's expression grew serious. "Because we've detected something approaching. Something that threatens not just us, but all life in this galaxy, And for the first time in our isolated existence, we need allies. The revelation. The delegation from the Galactic Collective stood transfixed before the pulsing quantum consciousness hub. The swirling mass of energy shifted in complex patterns, occasionally forming what appeared to be fleeting faces or abstract symbols before dissolving back into brilliant chaos. "This is unprecedented," Science Officer Krell whispered, her sensory tentacles extended to their full length as she attempted to comprehend what she was witnessing. Guardian gestured toward a corridor leading away from the main chamber. "If you'll follow me, there's someone who wishes to speak with you, one of our biological representatives." As they walked, the walls around them occasionally became transparent, revealing vast underwater complexes extending in all directions. Structures that should have been crushed by oceanic pressure stood intact, housing technology unlike anything in the Collective's archives. Our observations never detected any of this, cultural specialist Timmy noted, her feathers twitching with nervous energy. "They weren't meant to," Guardian replied simply. "Your observation posts monitored our surface activities, our atmosphere, our primitive satellite network. We kept most of our true development beneath the oceans or deep underground." They entered a smaller chamber where a human woman sat waiting. Unlike Guardian and the other representatives they'd seen, she was clearly biological, middle-aged by human standards, with lines at the corners of her eyes and silver streaking her dark hair. "Welcome," she said, rising to greet them. "I'm Dr. Elena Shaw, Director of Interspecies Relations. I'm one of the roughly 5% of humanity that chose to remain in biological form." Admiral Vorex stepped forward. "The implications of what we're seeing are difficult to process, Dr. Shaw. Your civilization appeared to be centuries away from quantum technology, let alone consciousness transfer." Dr. Shaw smiled. "That was by design. Admiral, please sit. The explanation is complex." The room accommodated itself to the various physiologies of the delegation, forming appropriate seating for each species. Once they were settled, Dr. Shaw activated a holographic display in the center of the room. 300 years ago," she began, "humanity was indeed as you perceived us, taking our first tentative steps into space, struggling with climate change, political divisions, the typical growing pains of an emerging species. The hologram showed historical images of early human space exploration, environmental challenges, and social unrest. Then came the quantum cognition breakthrough," she continued. "A scientist named Amara Okafor discovered that consciousness itself had quantum properties. It wasn't merely an emergent phenomenon of neural activity as we believed, but something far more fundamental to reality." The display shifted to show laboratories, complex equations, and eventually the first rudimentary consciousness hubs. Within 50 years, we had developed the technology to transfer human consciousness into quantum matrices. Not uploading minds into computers, that's a crude approximation, but transitioning the fundamental quantum state that constitutes consciousness into a more versatile form. Security Chief Drav leaned forward, his predatory instincts aroused. "Are you saying you've achieved immortality?" "Not exactly," Dr. Shaw clarified. "We've transcended certain limitations. Our consciousness persists as long as the quantum matrices are maintained, and we can manifest in physical form when necessary, but we're not truly immortal, just more durable." "Why maintain the facade?" asked Vorex, her 4 eyes fixed intently on Dr. Shaw. "Why pretend to be less advanced?" Dr. Shaw's expression grew serious. "Because of what happened to the Arcturians." The hologram shifted to show a star system none of the delegation recognized. 270 years ago, we detected a curious phenomenon. A quantum echo from a civilization that had existed in the Arcturus system. They had achieved a level of quantum consciousness integration similar to our early experiments. Dr. Shaw paused, her eyes reflecting old sorrow. They were systematically eradicated by what we now call the Harbingers. We watched the quantum echoes of their destruction, learned from the fragments of their consciousness that still reverberated through subspace. Harbingers. Elder Moru's gaseous form pulsed with concern. "We have no record of such a species." "They're not a species in the conventional sense," Dr. Shaw replied. "They appear to be sentient constructs designed to prevent the emergence of quantum-integrated civilizations. We believe they were created by some ancient race as a safeguard, but their creators are long gone, and the Harbingers continue their programmed mission without oversight." The hologram displayed shadowy entities that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially in dimensions beyond conventional perception. "After witnessing the Arcturians' fate, we made a strategic decision," Dr. Shaw continued. "We would develop in secret, hiding our true nature not just from these Harbingers, but from all other civilizations, including your collective, until we were ready to face the threat." Admiral Vorex processed this information with military precision. "And now you believe you're ready?" "Not alone," Dr. Shaw admitted. "That's why we've revealed ourselves to you. Our quantum scouts have detected Harbinger probes entering the outer reaches of several collective systems. They're expanding their search pattern, and eventually they'll find us all." She stood and approached a wall, which dissolved at her touch to reveal another vast chamber. Inside, hundreds of humans in physical form worked alongside advanced machinery, constructing what appeared to be weapons or defensive systems. "For centuries, we've been preparing," Dr. Shaw explained, "developing technologies to combat entities that exist partially outside conventional reality. But the Harbingers are ancient and adaptive. We believe our best chance, all of our best chance, is to combine our quantum technology with the diverse approaches and perspectives of the collective's many species." Science Officer Krell had been unusually quiet, her tentacles moving in patterns that indicated deep analysis. Now she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of realization. "The quantum communication method you used to contact us, it wasn't just to demonstrate your advancement. You were testing whether the Harbingers would detect it." Dr. Shaw nodded appreciatively. "Precisely. We've developed methods of quantum communication that should be undetectable to them, but we needed to test it in real-world conditions. Your arrival here without Harbinger interference suggests we succeeded." Guardian, who had remained silent during Dr. Shaw's explanation, stepped forward. "What we're proposing is an alliance, one that remains secret from the wider collective for now. A joint research initiative to combine our quantum technology with your diverse scientific approaches." Admiral Vorex's scales shifted color slightly as she considered the implications. "You're asking us to keep your existence secret from our own government?" "Initially, yes," Dr. Shaw confirmed, "until we can ensure secure communication methods for the entire collective. The more species that become aware of quantum consciousness integration, the greater the risk of attracting the Harbingers before we're ready." Cultural specialist Timmy's feathers lay flat against her head, a sign of distress. "This goes against every protocol we have for first contact scenarios." "Protocols exist for typical scenarios," Vorex replied thoughtfully. "This is anything but typical." She turned to Dr. Shaw. "How can we verify your claims about these Harbingers? We only have your word that they exist." Instead of answering directly, Dr. Shaw nodded to Guardian, who approached the central holographic projector. The image shifted to what appeared to be a star system in the midst of catastrophic collapse. "This was recorded by our quantum probes 17 years ago," Guardian explained. "The Midaris system, approximately 12 light-years beyond collective space." The delegation watched as strange, angular constructs appeared near the system's outer planets. Within moments, distortions rippled through the planets themselves, as if the very fabric of reality was being unwoven. Where the distortions passed, matter simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but erased from the dimensional framework. The Midarians had just achieved their first successful consciousness transfer experiments, Dr. Shaw said quietly. Within 3 days, their entire civilization was gone. Not just killed, removed from existence, as if they had never been. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. Finally, Admiral Vorex spoke. "If what you've shown us is true, then the threat is real, not just to Earth or the collective, but to all sentient life. It is, Dr. Shaw confirmed. And there's one more thing you should know. Our quantum scouts have detected increased harbinger activity in the past cycle. Their search pattern has become more aggressive, more targeted. We believe they've begun to sense something, perhaps the growing quantum potential of several collective species who are approaching the threshold of consciousness integration. Vorex exchanged glances with her team, seeing the same conclusion reflected in their expressions. If this human testimony was accurate, they were facing an existential threat unlike anything in recorded history. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked. Dr. Shaw gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show complex schematics, defensive systems, detection networks, and communication protocols. A joint task force, small at first, your team, and a select group of our quantum specialists, will establish secure facilities within unclaimed systems, combining our technologies to develop effective countermeasures against the harbingers. Guardian added, "We've prepared detailed briefings on everything we know about the harbingers, their methods, weaknesses, and predicted movement patterns. With your diverse scientific perspectives, we may identify solutions that have eluded us." Admiral Vorex considered the proposal, weighing duty against protocol, threat against uncertainty. After a long moment, she made her decision. "I will need to report something to the Collective Council," she said finally. "But perhaps not everything." "Not yet." Dr. Shaw nodded in understanding. "We suggest reporting that Earth has indeed achieved space travel capabilities slightly beyond what was observed, and that we're interested in cultural exchange and limited technological cooperation. It's close enough to the truth to satisfy protocols without revealing our quantum nature. And meanwhile, we establish this joint task force," Vorex concluded. "Yes," Guardian confirmed. "Operating beyond both Earth and collective space, preparing for what's coming." As the delegation prepared to return to their shuttle, Dr. Shaw approached Admiral Vorex privately. "There's something you should know, Admiral," she said quietly. "Humanity could have remained hidden indefinitely. Our quantum nature makes us virtually undetectable when we choose to be." "Then why reveal yourselves at all?" Vorex asked. "Why not simply evacuate Earth and disappear into the cosmos?" Dr. Shaw's expression was solemn. "Because we've seen the pattern. The harbingers aren't just eliminating quantum-conscious species, they're systematically working their way through all sentient life, even species far from achieving consciousness transfer. If they're not stopped, eventually, no one will remain." She placed a hand on the Admiral's arm, a surprisingly intimate gesture that conveyed genuine concern. "We chose to stand and fight rather than hide because we believe in something greater than our own survival. We believe in the potential of all conscious beings to transcend their limitations, to grow into something wonderful. The harbingers seek to prevent that transcendence. We seek to protect it, not just for ourselves, but for all who might someday achieve it." Admiral Vorex felt the weight of the moment, the pivot point between continuation and extinction, between isolation and alliance. "Then we stand together," she said simply. As the shuttle ascended toward the diplomatic overture waiting in orbit, the delegation watched the massive platform sink back beneath the ocean's surface, leaving no trace of its existence. The seemingly primitive Earth remained below, its true nature now known to only a select few. In the vastness beyond the galaxy's edge, something ancient stirred, sensing the first whispers of a new quantum consciousness awakening. The hunt would continue as it had for millions of years, but this time, perhaps, the prey was becoming the predator.